5 square miles of what are Inca ruins, dating back several centuries. Locals tell Bingham the site is called Machu Picchu.
Machu Picchu's greatest secret was never in plain sight, because over half of it lies underground.
It's estimated that potentially up to 60% of the construction of Machu Picchu is underground, and these deep foundations were necessary to help with seismic movements.
For a century, we thought the postcard view told the full story. Then researchers mapped the jungle, stepped into a sealed chamber, and found evidence that rewrites timelines and purpose. Why did the Inca hide such spaces? Why do the scans show more than the eye can see? And what did water, not gold, reveal about their world? Stay to the end. This discovery isn't treasure, it's a new blueprint for understanding Machu Picchu itself. Beyond the postcard view. When people picture Machu Picchu, they see that single breathtaking view. The terraces spilling down the green ridge, the stone walls catching morning light, the peak of Huayna Picchu towering behind it. That image has become one of the most recognizable scenes in the world, printed on postcards, travel posters, and screensavers. But what most don't realize is that this famous citadel is only a fraction of a far larger world. The Machu Picchu we know is just the visible crown of a sanctuary that stretches across mountains, rivers, and forests, much of it still hidden beneath the jungle canopy. Archaeologists now estimate that more than 60% of Machu Picchu's structures remain underground or covered by vegetation. The ruins that attract millions of tourists each year, the temples, terraces, and stairways, represent only the most accessible section. Beyond those boundaries lies a vast protected area covering over 125 square miles, filled with terraces, roads, and ritual spaces that were part of a complex sacred landscape. This greater Machu Picchu was never meant to be a single fortress or isolated palace. It was a network, an entire system of shrines, trails, and agricultural zones built to serve both earthly and divine purposes. To understand why so much of it stayed hidden, you need to picture the geography. The sanctuary sits on a narrow mountain ridge between 2 deep river valleys. The terrain is steep, with sheer cliffs dropping thousands of feet to the Urubamba River below. Dense cloud forest wraps around the peaks, and rainfall can shift to blinding mist within minutes. Inca builders turned these challenges into advantages, carving terraces into slopes and channeling water with precision. But for modern researchers, these same conditions made exploration nearly impossible. Until recently, dense vegetation swallowed entire structures, and the threat of landslides or river floods kept most expeditions close to the main citadel. Another reason the broader landscape remained untouched was preservation law. After Machu Picchu gained UNESCO World Heritage status, strict regulations limited excavation. Heavy digging could destabilize the fragile stonework that has survived centuries of rain and earthquakes. As a result, researchers were forced to observe from a distance, mapping what they could and leaving the rest to imagination. For nearly 100 years, archaeology at Machu Picchu focused almost entirely on the areas visible from tourist paths. The citadel became both a symbol of discovery and a boundary for it. The Inca who built this sanctuary were master engineers and visionaries. Their technique, called ashlar masonry, involved shaping stones so precisely that they interlocked without mortar. The fit was so perfect that not even a knife blade could slip between the blocks. This precision wasn't just aesthetic. It made the buildings earthquake-resistant and capable of standing for centuries in a seismic region. To the Inca, every structure held dual purpose, functional and spiritual. Temples aligned with celestial events, terraces balanced the ecology of mountain farming, and pathways connected physical places to spiritual ones. At its height, the Inca Empire stretched across what are now Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, and parts of Chile and Argentina. Machu Picchu was one of its crowning achievements, a royal estate, an agricultural lab, and a sacred hub all in one. But the deeper story is not only about kings or crops. It's about how the Inca engineered a dialogue between humanity and nature. Their architecture didn't dominate the mountain, it merged with it. Every stair, channel, and wall followed the rhythm of the land, blending stone with earth and sky. Because of this harmony, many archaeologists believe Machu Picchu was as much a spiritual map as it was a physical city. The terraces mirrored the shapes of surrounding peaks. Water channels traced paths that represented rivers in Inca mythology. Even the layout of temples corresponded to constellations. This fusion of science and spirituality turned the site into a living calendar, a place where architecture, astronomy, and ritual met. And yet, most of this story has remained invisible beneath vines and soil. The famous viewpoint shows only a surface, a single snapshot of a civilization that built downward as much as upward. The real Machu Picchu may lie beneath the stone, extending into unseen chambers, tunnels, and terraces, still cloaked by forest. Archaeologists have long suspected that beneath the citadel are hidden rooms, drainage systems, and ceremonial spaces that could completely change what we think we know about the site. For centuries, explorers could only guess what lay below. But now, thanks to modern technology, those guesses are turning into data. Drones, satellites, and laser mapping are revealing that the jungle conceals entire neighborhoods and sanctuaries. The postcard view was only the prologue. The real chapters are buried beneath moss and mist. What the naked eye couldn't see, the laser would. And those invisible patterns would expose a Machu Picchu no one imagined. Lasers through jungle. For centuries, the jungle around Machu Picchu was both its shield and its secret. The thick tangle of vines, trees, and moss protected the stones from wind and erosion, but it also hid the truth. No matter how skilled the archaeologists, human eyes couldn't see through a wall of green. The mountains swallowed entire terraces and temples, leaving researchers to wonder what might be lying beneath their feet. That began to change with a tool that could see where the light itself couldn't: LIDAR. LIDAR, short for Light Detection and Ranging, is one of archaeology's most transformative technologies. Mounted on drones or small aircraft, it fires millions of laser pulses toward the ground. These pulses bounce off leaves, branches, and eventually the earth below. The returning signals are measured with incredible precision, allowing scientists to digitally strip away the vegetation and reveal what's underneath. Think of it as peeling back the jungle without touching a single leaf. In the past, reaching many parts of Machu Picchu's sanctuary meant dangerous climbs, rope descents, and weeks of hacking through dense foliage. With LiDAR, the entire landscape could be mapped in days. When the first scans appeared on researchers' screens, the reaction was immediate. The images showed what looked like normal terrain, until you started to notice patterns. Straight lines where none should exist. Perfect terraces etched into slopes no one had stepped on in centuries. Flat, rectangular shapes suggesting the foundations of long-lost buildings. Nature doesn't create geometry like that. Humans do. What had once looked like untouched wilderness was suddenly revealed as a sprawling complex of engineered structures: roads, platforms, water channels, and hidden chambers. One of the most surprising results came from an area known as Cochabamba, several miles from the main citadel. Before the scans, it was little more than an overgrown clearing visited by few tourists. The LiDAR images, however, showed that Cochabamba wasn't a minor site. It was an intricate ceremonial center. The layout included terraces, stone basins, and what appeared to be enclosed courtyards aligned with water channels. These channels weren't random. They seemed designed for rituals involving the controlled flow of water, a hallmark of Inca spiritual practice. It was a revelation that suggested Machu Picchu's spiritual influence extended much farther than the postcard image ever implied. But Cochabamba was only the beginning. As more data poured in, patterns began to surface in other unexplored regions. To the trained eye, every faint outline carried meaning. Clusters of rectangular depressions hinted at storage buildings. Long, straight ridges could be ancient roads connecting the sanctuary to neighboring valleys. Some shapes even resembled stepped platforms, possible ceremonial altars or viewing terraces. The jungle that once hid Machu Picchu's secrets was now betraying them line by line, pulse by pulse. The implications were staggering. For the first time, scientists could see how the sanctuary functioned as a whole. The data revealed a design far more expansive and sophisticated than anyone had imagined. It wasn't just a royal estate or isolated mountain city. It was part of an orchestrated system of worship and engineering. The scans connected the dots between agricultural terraces, religious shrines, and natural features like rivers and springs. The Inca had woven nature and architecture together in one continuous tapestry, and the lasers were tracing the stitches. Beyond expanding the map, the technology changed how archaeology at Machu Picchu would be done forever. In the past, exploration meant excavation, digging, disturbing, and sometimes damaging. Now, researchers could see beneath the surface without lifting a stone. LiDAR made preservation and discovery partners, not opposites. It was the first time modern science had matched the precision of Inca craftsmanship. Each scan brought new excitement, but also new questions. Who built these hidden terraces? What rituals took place in the unseen chambers? And how did the Inca achieve such perfect alignment across miles of rugged mountain terrain? For every answer the lasers provided, 10 new mysteries emerged. The data proved one undeniable truth. Machu Picchu was much larger, older, and more complex than the world believed. Yet to understand how far that complexity reached, technology alone wasn't enough. Scientists needed a timeline, a way to know not just where these structures were, but when they were built. The jungle had finally surrendered its shape, but the clock of history was still off. And when researchers reset that clock, everything we thought we knew about Machu Picchu's origin began to unravel. Timeline shock. For decades, the story of Machu Picchu seemed settled. According to every textbook, museum label, and tour guide, the citadel was built around the mid-1400s under the rule of Emperor Pachacuti, visionary, conqueror, and the architect of the Inca Empire's golden age. The site, they said, was his royal estate, a luxurious retreat high above the clouds where rulers could rest and commune with the gods. That version of history became gospel, repeated for more than a century. But there was one problem. It was based on hearsay, not hard evidence. The timeline we accepted came almost entirely from Spanish colonial chronicles written after the conquest. These chroniclers had never seen Machu Picchu with their own eyes. They wrote decades later, relying on fragments of memory, rumor, and second-hand accounts filtered through politics and faith. Their writings reflected a European lens, a way of fitting the Inca world into their own understanding of kings and palaces. For years, archaeologists accepted their words as fact because there was no scientific alternative. That would soon change. A new generation of researchers decided to test the legend against the soil itself. Instead of taking history at face value, they went to the layers beneath Machu Picchu's stones. Deep within sealed construction zones and floor sediments, they found traces of charcoal, plant fibers, and organic material left behind by the original builders. These weren't just random remnants, they were time capsules. Using advanced radiocarbon dating, scientists hope to determine when those materials last lived, burned, or were buried. The method they used, accelerator mass spectrometry, or AMS, was far more precise than the older carbon-14 techniques. It allowed them to measure minuscule amounts of carbon, even from samples no larger than a grain of sand. Each sample was meticulously cleaned to prevent contamination, then calibrated with tree ring data to match real calendar years. It was, in essence, the first time Machu Picchu's stones would speak for themselves. When the results came back, the numbers didn't fit the story. The samples dated not to the 1450s or 1460s, but to decades earlier, the 1420s and 1430s. That meant the site was already active before Pachacuti had consolidated his empire. Construction, habitation, and ritual activity were underway long before the supposed royal retreat even existed on paper. Machu Picchu wasn't a quick, late project by a single ruler. It was part of a much older continuum. The shock rippled through the archaeological world. If the dates were correct, the site's purpose needed to be rethought. Maybe it wasn't built for one man's leisure at all. Maybe it was conceived as a sacred center from the very beginning, a place of pilgrimage, ritual, and celestial alignment, long before imperial politics shaped its narrative. The Inca didn't separate the sacred from the practical. They built both at once. The terraces that fed their people also fed their gods. The walls that guarded their rulers also guarded their prayers. With this earlier timeline, Machu Picchu became less a royal estate and more a spiritual engine of the empire. The data also proved something larger, that history written in ink can change, but history written in stone and soil endures. The Spanish chronicler's dates reflected memory. Radiocarbon reflected reality. Science had finally peeled back centuries of assumption, revealing a truth older and more intricate than anyone had imagined. These findings didn't just shift the calendar, they expanded the meaning of the site itself. If Machu Picchu was already sacred before the empire's peak, then the surrounding valleys and mountains likely held spiritual significance too. It suggested a continuous sacred landscape rather than an isolated sanctuary. Every path, every carved rock, every hidden terrace could have been part of a wider system of worship connecting sky, mountain, and water. The revelation also carried a quiet warning that we still know very little. Radiocarbon dating can tell us when something was built or used, but not why. The soil held numbers, not motives. For those answers, researchers would have to go deeper, literally. Somewhere under the jungle, sealed away for centuries, were spaces untouched since the day the Inca left. And when archaeologists finally stepped inside one of those hidden chambers, what they found wasn't treasure. It was something far more mysterious and sacred. Inside the sealed room. When the team of researchers finally approached the entrance to the newly discovered chamber, they knew they were stepping into a part of Machu Picchu no human had seen in centuries. The area was remote, buried under layers of soil, roots, and moss. The opening wasn't obvious. It had been sealed by the Inca themselves, the doorway disguised as just another section of wall. Once cleared, a faint passage emerged, leading down into darkness. Every step forward meant walking into a space deliberately hidden from time. The air inside was heavy, damp, and cold. It smelled of stone and centuries of stillness. Their lights cut through the gloom, revealing walls built with astonishing precision, the same seamless ashlar masonry that defined Machu Picchu above ground. The stones were polished smooth, their joins so tight they looked like a single continuous surface.
This could have easily been made by the Incas, although it's a pretty impressive bit of engineering, and well, there must have been quite a bit of effort just to cut through all this rock so that they can make the trail go through here.
But the architecture here felt different. It wasn't grand or expansive. It was intimate, deliberate, sacred. The team quickly realized this was no storage room or living space. The first thing they noticed were carved stone basins arranged in a descending line, each connected to the next by narrow channels. When water was poured into the top basin, it would flow smoothly into the next, and then the next, in a controlled rhythm. This wasn't plumbing, it was choreography. Similar features had been found at other Inca ceremonial sites, used for purification rituals. Water, in Inca belief, symbolized renewal and life. To wash with it, or to guide it through a sacred channel, was to invite the favor of the gods. As they moved deeper into the chamber, the researchers found flat altar-like stones, some with grooves etched across their surfaces. These channels were designed to direct liquids, possibly water, chicha, a ceremonial drink, or even the blood of sacrifices, toward specific points. The precision of the carving suggested these weren't random markings. They were part of an intentional design, a system where every movement of water or offering was part of a ritual act. Along the side walls, the light caught rows of small, trapezoidal niches carved directly into the stone. They were empty now, but their symmetry and depth suggested they once held sacred objects, perhaps idols, ritual tools, or symbolic offerings. The silence of the chamber made their emptiness feel even more profound, as though the objects themselves had been deliberately removed before the site was abandoned. Some archaeologists believe the Inca may have cleared their sacred spaces when Spanish invasion became inevitable, to keep their gods from desecration. Then came the discovery that changed everything. Below the chamber floor lay a network of hidden water channels. These weren't natural cracks. They were engineered tunnels, angled precisely to guide water through the room before carrying it out toward the nearby river. The sophistication of this system stunned engineers on the team. It wasn't simple drainage. It was design with purpose. Water entered, circled the chamber, and exited in a pattern so precise. It likely mirrored the spiritual flow of life and death central to Inca cosmology. This wasn't a tomb. It wasn't a treasure vault. It was something deeper, a place built to connect nature, faith, and geometry. Every line, groove, and channel was intentional. The Inca didn't separate the sacred from the functional. To them, the two were one. The chamber wasn't about gold or glory. It was about balance. It represented the living dialogue between mountain, water, and spirit. For the researchers, this realization was humbling. They hadn't just found a hidden room. They'd found a philosophy carved in stone. Even the smallest details told a story of reverence. The way the floor sloped slightly toward the channel, the alignment of the niches with natural light filtering through cracks, the stillness that seemed almost alive. No gold artifacts glittered here, no mummies lay in waiting. Instead, the value of the discovery was symbolic. It offered an unfiltered glimpse into the Inca worldview, a world where faith was built from engineering, and engineering was an act of worship. The chamber proved that Machu Picchu wasn't merely a royal residence perched in the clouds. It was part of a vast sacred machine powered by water and stone. But to truly understand the purpose of that hidden chamber, researchers had to look closer, not at what was inside, but at what flowed through it. Because at Machu Picchu, water itself was the ritual. Water was the ritual. When the Inca built, they didn't just move stone, they moved meaning. And in Machu Picchu's hidden chamber, that meaning flowed like water. For the Inca, Water wasn't simply a resource, it was a living force, a messenger between the earth and the divine. It carried life through the terraces, cleansed the spirit in rituals, and mirrored the celestial rivers in the sky. Every drop was sacred. To the Inca, guiding water through stone wasn't construction, it was ceremony. The newly discovered chamber proved that truth with astonishing clarity. Those carved basins and underground channels weren't plumbing, they were prayers made physical. When the archaeologists reconstructed how water once moved through the space, they found a deliberate rhythm. It entered quietly, pooled in each basin, and then descended, one level at a time, before rejoining the mountain stream below. That controlled descent wasn't accidental. It symbolized purification, rebirth, and return. Each stage represented a step in the spiritual journey, linking the physical act of cleansing to the cosmic cycle of renewal. This belief system stretched far beyond the chamber itself. Across the Andes, Inca engineers created a network of sacred hydraulics, stone fountains, aqueducts, and channels that followed astronomical alignments. In nearby sites like Tipon and Ollantaytambo, similar water features reveal the same precision. At Tipon, spring water flows through a series of terraces in perfect balance, never spilling, never stopping. The sound of the flow changes pitch as it passes through each level, creating what many researchers describe as a kind of liquid chant. The newly uncovered structures at Machu Picchu fit perfectly into this tradition. They were part of a spiritual dialogue between humans, mountains, and the natural elements that sustained them. The Inca concept behind this was called kame, a word meaning to infuse life or spirit. They believed that elements like water, stone, and air weren't separate from living beings, they were alive. Each had energy, and by shaping it through architecture, they maintained harmony with the cosmos. The flow of water through channels wasn't just practical, it animated the sacred. It turned an ordinary mountain into a breathing temple. What's fascinating is how science now confirms their genius. Modern hydrologists studying Machu Picchu have found that the site's water management system is still functional after more than 500 years. The Inca diverted springs through filters of gravel and stone to keep the flow clear. They even built drainage beneath terraces to prevent erosion during heavy rains. Their design wasn't only spiritual, it was sustainable engineering on a level that modern planners still admire. The sacred and the scientific were one continuous stream. Inside the chamber, the absence of gold or jewelry puzzled some observers, but for others it made perfect sense. The Inca didn't measure value in metal. They measured it in meaning. The true treasure was mastery over natural forces and the ability to align those forces with belief. The smoothness of the stones, the precision of the cuts, the orchestration of water, all of it spoke of devotion expressed through craftsmanship. Every groove was a prayer, every basin a hymn. This discovery forces us to rethink Machu Picchu's purpose entirely. It wasn't a royal vacation home or a secluded fortress. It was a living sanctuary where rituals of renewal were performed through architecture itself. The mountains around it weren't scenery, they were deities. The rivers weren't borders, they were veins carrying divine energy through the landscape. And at the heart of it all, water became the thread binding heaven and earth. Even today, when rain falls across those stones, it traces the same paths carved by Inca hands centuries ago. The ritual continues in silence, flowing unseen through the terraces and tunnels. The hidden chamber didn't need gold to prove its significance. It only needed movement. Because, to the Inca, motion was worship. Yet while one chamber revealed devotion through water, another mystery lingered, a sealed doorway behind Machu Picchu's sacred temple. What was real? What was rumor? And why did global experts intervene? The sealed door debate. Before the discovery of the hidden chamber, whispers of another secret had already haunted Machu Picchu. Tour guides spoke softly of a door they won't open near the Temple of the Three Windows, one of the site's most sacred places. Perfectly aligned with the rising sun, the temple already carried spiritual weight. But rumors claimed something mysterious was sealed behind its walls. In the mid-2000s, a group of independent researchers said they'd found proof. Using ground-penetrating radar, GPR, they detected rectangular voids behind the stonework, possible signs of a hidden chamber. To many, it was the discovery of a lifetime. The media exploded with claims of lost tombs, gold offerings, or the final resting place of the Emperor Pachacuti. But excitement soon turned to skepticism. Experts warned that GPR scans weren't photographs but data patterns, open to interpretation. The supposed voids could be natural gaps, air pockets, or drainage spaces built intentionally by Inca engineers. The evidence, they said, wasn't proof of anything extraordinary. Still, pressure grew to open the site. The researchers requested permission to drill a small hole for a camera inspection. That's when the debate shifted, from curiosity to preservation. Machu Picchu's walls, built without mortar, balance entirely on precision. Disturbing a single stone could destabilize centuries of equilibrium. The Ministry of Culture and UNESCO reviewed the plan and reached the same verdict. The wall must remain sealed. The ruling sparked outrage among thrill-seekers and speculation that the government was hiding something. But archaeologists defended the decision, insisting that true respect for the Inca means protecting their work, not damaging it in pursuit of spectacle. Every stone was placed with purpose. Tampering with it would betray that legacy. To illustrate what such a space might contain, officials pointed to the Temple of the Moon on Huayna Picchu, a known cave temple featuring carved benches and ritual platforms. It proved that Inca interiors were sacred places of ceremony, not treasure vaults. In the end, the sealed door debate became a symbol of a larger truth. Some mysteries deserve to remain untouched. Machu Picchu's greatest secret may not be what's behind the walls, but the wisdom of leaving them closed. But if one mystery must remain sealed, another has already been opened, and what it teaches could redefine Machu Picchu's legacy for generations to come. What this changes. For more than a century, Machu Picchu has stood as a postcard, frozen in time, framed by mist and myth. But now, the discovery of a hidden chamber, revised dates, and sacred water systems changes everything. Machu Picchu was never just a royal retreat or an architectural marvel. It was a living sanctuary, a place where faith and engineering merged into one. The chamber didn't hold gold or mummies, but it offered something far more valuable: context. It revealed that Machu Picchu was part of a vast spiritual network linking mountains, rivers, and stars. Every stone, terrace, and channel had both a physical and celestial purpose. The Inca didn't build on the mountain, they built with it. The slopes mirrored the terrain, the waterways followed the rhythm of the rain, and temples aligned with the sun and constellations. It wasn't just a city. It was a compass, a calendar, and a prayer in stone. Modern technology like LiDAR and carbon dating now confirm what the Inca always knew. Nothing here was random. Every wall, channel, and stairway was intentional. The Inca's genius wasn't just in craftsmanship, it was in perspective. They saw the land not as a backdrop, but as a living partner in creation. It also challenges how we view ancient intelligence. The Inca weren't primitive builders working by instinct. They were environmental engineers guided by astronomy, spirituality, and sustainability. Their methods show that technology and tradition can coexist, creating systems that serve both people and the planet. These revelations urge us to rethink how we define advanced civilization. Maybe the future depends on rediscovering what they already knew. These discoveries also redefine what treasure really means. The Inca didn't measure wealth in metal, but in balance. The true riches of Machu Picchu were harmony and sustainability, a perfect dialogue between nature and humanity. And perhaps the greatest change is philosophical. The Inca believed that to live in balance with the earth was to live in truth. Their message echoes through time. Progress without respect leads to ruin. What they built wasn't for fame. It was for forever. So, what does this change? Everything. Machu Picchu is no longer just a mystery of stone. It's a message carved into the heart of a mountain, still waiting for us to listen. What do you think? Should Machu Picchu's sealed spaces be explored, or should they remain untouched as the Inca intended? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden truths of this ancient wonder, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more stories like this. And if you're ready to explore another incredible secret lost to time, click the video on your screen now. The next chapter of ancient history is waiting.